behalf of the Women's Commission, it is with great pleasure to welcome you to this afternoon's HerStory with Dr. Cynthia McCurren, Dean of the Kirkland College of Nursing. HerStory presenters are leaders who share their dynamic personal stories to inspire the GVSU community. If you have been a past HerStory presenter, please stand and be recognized for your contributions to the Grand Valley State community. All HerStories. Thank you. We appreciate the impact that you all have had on the university and your willingness to share your authentic stories, shattering the myths about women in leadership positions, and highlighting the experiences that you have had to motivate us to succeed. Before I introduce our HerStory guests, I would like to take a moment to remind you of an upcoming women's mentoring reception, and it will be on Thursday, November 16th at 4 p.m. in the Loosemore Auditorium. This program was developed as a way to recognize the value of female faculty and staff connecting to shape their lives, their professions, and their societies. The program is focusing on creating opportunities of dialogue and relationship building to occur here on the university's campus. I'll put this up a little bit more so I don't, allergies are kind of so you don't have to hear the snippets here and there. Today's HerStory guest is Dr. Cynthia McCurren, the Dean of Grand Valley State University's Kirkland College of Nursing. Dr. McCurren has been leading the college since November 2007. She came to GVSU from the University of Louisville, where she served as interim dean, associate dean, and faculty for the School of Nursing. She has made many contributions to nursing scholarship, which includes but is not limited to serving as the Director of Nursing Research for 5 years at the University of Louisville Hospital. She is a fellow in the National Academies of Practice. Her professional service include membership and participation in AACN, which is the American Association of College of Nurses, ANA, American Nurses Association, and STTI, Sigma Theta Tau International, and numerous West Michigan and Michigan Nurses Forums and Advisory Committees. Dean McCurren currently serves as the immediate past president of the Michigan Association of Colleges of Nursing, board member at large for the AACN Board of Directors, chair of the AACN Membership Committee, AACN Legislative Liaison for Michigan, and on the AACN Vision for Nursing Education Task Force. Please help me welcome Dr. Cynthia McCurren to the podium to share her story.
Thank you so much. So, of course, Cece and I have a great connection working together in the College of Nursing, so I truly appreciate that. I also want to thank Jenna for the invitation that you personally extended to me to have this opportunity, and certainly the Women's Commission for giving me the opportunity to share. So I also, I've been to some of the HerStories, and I may be doing this a little bit different than others have, but I decided, well, it's my story, so I can do it how I want to. I also want to say up front, a lot of nurses in the room with me today. Thank you all for coming. What I say today may or may not represent your experience in nursing, but I do know that broadly it is the experience in nursing because it's well documented. So we're going to be talking about what that has meant for me in developing myself as a leader. Well, here is what she looked like when she started in nursing. Yes, that's me. I was a child of the 70s, and that hair was all the way down past my waist, and I was a true hippie. But I did look professional for my nursing picture. And you can see this is what we all were striving for, was this nursing plan, and of course, the AWOL for my cat. When I started thinking about what I wanted to share and what the title should be, I really couldn't come up with what the title should be. So I listed all the ones I thought about, and this gives you kind of an idea of where this is going. culture of a discipline? And can you or can you not be an effective leader when you're a nurse? It's about being a woman and a nurse. And can you be a leader with both of those, an effective leader? It's my journey through disciplinary culture and gender socialization towards becoming what I believe my outcome is as an authentic leader. And it also has to do with how much adversity in my life has helped me to go from good to great. So that's a bit of an overview of what you're going to hear. Now, like any good scholarly presenter, I have a framework. And, but for this, I just needed a context in which to put forward what I wanted to share. So this is really looking at the kinds of variables that affect who you are in terms of your thoughts and beliefs, how that affects your self-image, your actions, and your performance. And so you see that you have your experiences, your heredity, your environment, gender socialization, and reference groups. And I'm going to talk about these variables in this context. So the first thing broadly about the environment is about the general sexual exploitation that is associated with nursing. So it is not uncommon for male patients to call the nurse sweetie or cutie, or to even ask for a kiss, or for there to be groping. It is not uncommon to be walking around in your white uniform, or any uniform that designates that you're a nurse. Perhaps you've gone out for something to eat after you've gotten off of the night shift, and to be sitting over at a table with your colleagues and hear a cat calling, "Nurse, nurse, I'm having a heart attack," or trying to get your attention in some way. Sending over free drinks, I guess that was the benefit of it, but anyway, they're trying to make attention that, the nurse is this female that's available to you. In fact, 60% of nurses that have been surveyed said that they have experienced sexual harassment at work. The sexual connotations of the nursing role span decades. It's not just now in the 21st century. It goes back a very long time. And the sexual connotations of the nursing role are popular in our culture through Halloween costumes and college parties. And this gives you an example of what is not uncommon. So you can see a couple of my favorite Halloween costumes here. Talking about over the decades, these are obviously World War II vintage pictures, and you can see how the nurse was represented. The one down here on the bottom is a more current representation of how nurses are portrayed, and of course we have our little cartoon character. And here's some more. I'm just so glad there's also a Barbie doll nurse. And so we have that for our young ladies to aspire for. And the list goes on. I can tell you that I've never seen nurses dressed like this. However, there's quite a power group coming down the hall there. So this is the kind of image that's often out there. Let's talk a little bit about how are we portrayed in TVs and the movies. It has been for decades that nursing, nurse-physician relationships have been part of fodder for what's a good line, a good storyline for TVs and movies. And often it is focused on the intimate relationships or the sexual escapades, rather than really demonstrating what we would hope to be a mutual respect for professions for each other, the way we collaborate, the way we bring about good outcomes for our patients and so forth. But to be honest, this is what we hear, is that whether it's a drama or it's comedy, sex sells, and it's ever present in the medically oriented TV programs in general. Now, most people, there's actually a national advocacy group made up of nurses who watchdog and monitor what the perceptions are being portrayed out in media with regards to nursing and nursing as a profession. And so there's a lot of work being done with regards to this. And their point is that people try to excuse this representation of nursing because it's entertainment. No one really believes that. But the fact is that what people see does affect what they think, and what they think affects what they do. And this isn't just an observation of how humans act. It's the basic principle of art, advertising, or any other organized effort to influence people. There was a study that was conducted in 2008, and it was called Celluloid Angels, and it actually looked at nurses featured in films across 1900 to 2007. And the predominant characters were female nurses, and it included nurses who joined the profession to meet a rich doctor, nurses who were threatening or evil, you might remember Nurse Ratched, nurses as subservient to physicians, and nurses who were sex objects. And in fact, 26% of the 280 films that they looked at featured nurses as overtly sexual. Now here's some other examples that you will remember. The MASH ran for over 11 years, and Hot Lips Houlihan was the well-known Army nurse, which was, it was in the Korean War theater. And she was a very integral part of the team. I think she was portrayed as being someone who contributed to saving lives and making a positive professional contribution. But, as her name suggests, she also was the sexual interest of several men on the show, and she really perpetuated the naughty nurse image. There are popular TV programs, many of you have seen these, ER, Grey's Anatomy, Scrubs, Private Practice, House, to name a few. They generally portray physicians in charge of things, and you do see nurses perhaps in the background doing such things as taking a pulse, a blood pressure, emptying a bed man, or dating doctors, which is primarily why they're in the story theme. The interesting thing about these shows is that they often have physicians carrying out activities that physicians don't carry out in real life, or things that nurses do. So, interesting. Now, there have been some newer TV dramas that have cast nurse in a much more positive image to some extent, in that they've shown their intellect, their ability to influence, their ability to make an impact, but they also carry a lot of unnecessary connotations with them as well. Nurse Jackie is the one that's been quite controversial in the profession. There have been nurses who thought that Nurse Jackie was a great contribution to showing the power that nurses can have and their ability to advocate. But she also has been seen snorting painkillers, taking heroin. She has forged the dead man's donor organ card, and she's flussed the severed ear of a man down the toilet for punishment for assaulting prostitutes. So while her actions may seem justified, they're not the behaviors of nurses. We wouldn't do that. Here's some pictures. Nurse Jackie there on the right. This is the ER crew. You see the one nurse in the center, and of course she has on pink. And we have Hot Lips. And then the one in the center was a movie actually about a nurse who took on a very vindictive avenue and killed patients. Yeah, so also not what we would ordinarily want. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how did this influence me. So as I go through these different variables, I'm going to begin inserting pieces of my story because I want you to understand how powerful it is, despite the fact that I consider myself a fairly smart female. So, to be honest, when I started off as a 19-year-old, 18, 19, I decided I wanted to be a nurse. I didn't decide I wanted to be a nurse for all the right reasons. It was because I had grown up in the family. My father was a pastor. We did caring things. We did good things for people. It was just always talked that, they call me Cynthia Ann. Cynthia Ann's going to be a nurse. And I just did that. I really didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what it was going to be. I had no idea the breadth of what it would mean for me as a career. But I have to be very honest that the fun of going away to the University of Missouri where I got my baccalaureate degree was meeting all the young men that were going to medical school. I mean, it was part of the culture, it was part of the climate, and we all would flirt and talk about whether we could marry a doctor, and I mean, it was part of what we did. By the way, apologies again to all my nurse friends who said I never did that, but I did. I'm just going to admit that I did. And so it almost was a distraction to what I was really there to be learning. After I finished my first full year of actually doing nursing, learning nursing skills, serving as a student nurse in hospital settings and so forth, I had a summer job at an emergency room at a large hospital in Kansas City, Missouri. much the epitome also because working in the emergency room is where all the action happens. It's also where some of the most dynamic relationships are between physicians and nurses because there's a lot of working together and partnership and so forth. So it's going to be this great learning experience for me. And I will say that one of the things that happened there was some wonderful nurse role models, and I wanted to be like them. They were amazing how they knew how to handle the situations and so forth that were going on. But another big feature of that summer job was the 27-year-old ER doctor that picked me out today, and I just really felt pretty proud of myself. He had a lot of money. He drove this fantastic little orange Porsche. He took me around the whole summer, and we went to concerts. I ate great food. He took me home to meet his family. I mean, I thought, maybe I'd land with the doctor, you know. Well, at the end of that summer, I was kind of disillusioned. It really wasn't. It wasn't at all. You know, I felt objectified. You know, I knew that there really wasn't a sincere relationship here. That was quite obvious to me. He went and moved to Honolulu, Hawaii, and wrote plays, and I went back to school, and that was the end of that. But it was a big awakening moment for me. I was not proud of myself that that meant so much to me, that to have a physician pay attention to me, to actually ask me out, and all the other nurses in the ER were like, wow, you got John, how'd you do it, you know? So I learned from that. It was during that time period that we used to go out a lot when we got off of work, which was often at midnight. That's when the catcalling was pretty obvious to me when we would be in the local bars and such, relaxing after a hard day of work. But another more poignant memory about this for me is when I'm much more adult. I'm serving as the interim dean at the University of Louisville. My esteemed dean, who I admire very much, has left, and so I've been appointed. So now suddenly I am invited to sit around the table for bi-weekly meetings with the leadership from the College of Medicine, Dentistry, Public Health, and the Chancellor for Health, and some operational officers. I'm the only female around the table. But this was the role that my former dean had, and now I was the dean, so I would be sitting at the table for these meetings. And I thought I was coming in and really listening and understanding to conversations and decisions that were going on. And then one day, as I was leaving, one of the gentlemen said, Cynthia, we are so glad you're here with us. I'm getting ready to feel good that he's going to compliment me on something that I contributed to the meeting. And he said, you know, you come in here, your hair is so gorgeous, I just want to touch it. And your clothes, you always look great. You make us old guys look good. I was so disappointed that that's what he chose to compliment me on. And I really realized again how much we are still, no matter where you think you achieved, that's still very much how you're looked at when you're a nurse. The other thing that they would say at that table is, are we keeping the girls happy? The girls meaning the College of Nursing. And I would say, you mean the faculty and the students? You know, we're not girls. So that's another just demeaning way of just throwing things in. I also want to say at this point that I may say things about physicians or other health partners, and I'm not saying that they're all this way or that it's a pervasive feeling for everyone, because I have a lot of good colleagues, but I'm just talking about how these were points in my career that brought home what a broader image is, no matter if we want to try to say it's not there, that it does make a difference. Okay, so another environmental perception that's important is the public perception. And the public has voted nurses as the most trusted, honest, and ethical profession in America. According to the annual Gallup poll, ranking honesty and ethics in various fields for 15 consecutive years. And actually, there's a number of years before 2002. In 2001, for obvious reasons, firefighters got this award after 9/11. So even though that is the perception of us, it is not really reflective of what the public believes they know about what nursing does. It seems to come more from the sentimental stereotype of us being selfless, hardworking young females. So in 2015, a study was done that identified all the different things that tend to influence the perceptions of nursing. again, when people were asked what they thought nurses did and what their perceptions were, these are the things that they said influence what they think nursing is. So it's the media portrayal, the entertainment value of demeaning nurses, the role incongruity, so nursing is trusted but not respected, and that nursing roles aren't growing understood. So it's obvious that most people don't even think about what a nurse does, really. It's just not something they get up and contemplate unless they need one. And then they may be in a situation in which case they have to interact with a nurse. But for the most part, if you were to go around and do interviews with general people in the public who don't have a nurse in the family or haven't had some other way of really knowing more intimately about nurses, they just think there's someone who gives comfort and they are there to help the doctor. In fact, one interview that I listened to when I was preparing for this, they really said that what a nurse does is take your blood pressure and put you in the room before the doctor comes in. And that's just their scope, because that's been their experience. So we have a lot to think about in terms of the public perception. The other thing that always has bothered me a lot is sort of how nurses are portrayed in terms of kinds of tangible things that are associated with us. It's often hearts, flowers, ugly animals, and angels. And we're often thought of, because we're caring and dedicated and kind, of course it would be an angel. And then in years past we wore our hats and that always looked like a halo. So, it kind of feels like it all came together around that. So we're defined more by our moral virtue rather than the reality of nurses are. They are very, very smart. They're very grounded in scientific knowledge. They have life-saving skills, not only their technical hands-on skills, but their curiosity and their detectives about figuring out what's wrong with an individual. They don't give up on that when someone else might walk in and out of a room. They're staying on it until they figure it out. They're courageously advocates. So if you look, though, at what common gifts are for individuals, it's usually, for nurses, it's around this other theme. This one I wanted to bring up because we celebrate Nurses Day every year on May 12th. And we do that because it's Florence Nightingale's birthday, and she was born in 1820. There are writings from Florence Nightingale that if you pick them up and just read it, you don't know who wrote it, you would think they were written in the 21st century. She was that timely, she was that insightful, she so understood what the role of nursing needed to be. And during the Crimean War, she was trying to save British soldiers who were dying of preventable disease because the resources were not afforded by the government or the troops. She described her work in this way: I stand at the altar of murdered men, and while I live, I shall fight their cause. And you might note she didn't put I heart nursing at the end of it as some sort of a kind of childish way to reflect that. Now here are some common ways that nursing is reflected. You see our precious moments, our angels, you see our teddy bears, and so forth. So we're working really hard to try to dispel this image, and on Nurses Day, what would be more impactful? How can we show the public how nurses provide care, pointing care, and make a difference? But that's not it. So some of the things that have happened to me personally around public perception. As I was advancing my degree, so I would say, I've gone back to school, I'm working on my master's, or I've gone back to school, I'm working on my PhD. This kind of incredulous look coming from whoever you were around the table having dinner with, or whoever you had any conversation with, is like, why don't you just get adopted? And that complete lack of awareness that the nursing profession is very steeped in its own domain-specific disciplinary activities that are complementary to the whole scheme of what we need to have in healthcare. And I don't have to have the title of physician or doctor in order to make an impact, that I can't do it with my own profession. The other thing is really another good idea of showing you that the public doesn't really understand what nursing does, or that they think it's simply that point of care exchange of holding your hand and getting you through a bad time, is when I talk about being an educator. So just recently I had a conversation, they would say, like, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a nurse. Well, what hospital do you work at? Well, I'm not at a hospital. I actually work for Grand Valley in the College of Nursing. Oh, what do you do there? Well, I am actually the dean. Oh, do you miss being a nurse? I'm like, no, I'm still a nurse. You know, so if I'm not at the point of care and still walking in a hospital and going up to a hospital bed and interfacing with the patient, I'm not a nurse anymore, because that's what a nurse is. So I just think we have a lot to do in terms of understanding that, and that's how that's played out for me. So the next kind of an environmental factor that affects us is what we call the doctor-nurse game. And this actually was publicly acknowledged in 1967, where it was made quite explicit that there's a clear agreement between doctors and nurses that their relationship is hierarchical and doctors are superior to nurses. And that we have to be very careful about how we manage our interactions so as not to violate the hierarchy. So that if you have an assessment and therefore a recommendation on behalf of patients, you have to make it appear like it was initiated by the doctor. Now, of the nurses in the room, have any of you been told that, or have you ever practiced it? Okay, they're shaking their heads. Yeah. So, you know, it's real. You think that can't be real, but it is. So, for an example, if I have a patient that has gone to surgery, they've had a lot of postoperative pain, and the physician's orders have already transitioned them from a heavier narcotic pain reliever to Tylenol, and I can see that the Tylenol isn't working for them, I have to go to the physician and say, I was just noticing that Miss So-and-so seems a little uncomfortable, and I'm not sure if the Tylenol is helping. I wonder if there might be some other form of pain management we could look at, rather than saying, she needs to go back on her Percocet because it was really working, you know? So it's very real, and it's still real today. Another thing that's changed this shift, though, and this difficulty and this tension that we feel in healthcare now in this hierarchy, which really there's a lot of effort out there now in the 21st century to try to break down the hierarchical walls. Not that it's necessarily working, but one of the things that made a big difference is that prior to where we are now, nurses were educated in hospital programs. And so you were educated and trained in the domain of where the physician was. And so you were taught that the physician was your superior. And that was ingrained in you. Everything from if the physician walks in the room, you give up your chair, you bring coffee or tea, whichever their choice is. That's what you were taught. So when we moved nursing education primarily out of hospital-based into higher education, then the physician doesn't have the influence anymore in that environment. And nursing has had the opportunity as a discipline to try to be much more forward-thinking and talking about how nursing works collaboratively with other roles. So that's made a difference for us. One of the things that's happened, and we'll talk about a bit more in a minute, is when you don't understand what nurses do, and that's embedded in the medical system, it often continues to contribute to that oppressiveness that's perceived by nurses and the dysfunction that nurse-physician relationships have. Now, another thing that creates an uneven playing field is that physician services bring revenue for the hospital system. So they're directly reimbursable. So if you're running a business and the thing that keeps you in business because of the revenue is upset or says, I'm not going to come back here if you don't fix this or whatever, they're going to leverage the most power because they're very dependent on them bringing in the revenue. Does that make sense? Nursing, on the other hand, is not tied directly to any quality or outcomes. We are in the room and board charge. And so there's no way to sort of quantify or leverage the value that you're bringing to an organization when you've got that mismatch of where you are on the playing field. So all of this can lead to low self-esteem, a feeling of being disregarded, and unfortunately, in outright abuse. In a book that was just published in the last 2 years, there was a focus on, you see the title here, and what's labeled Dr. Bullying. And 87% of nurses report that they've encountered physicians who've had a reluctance or refusal to answer their questions or return their calls. That's the way the question was worded. 74% have experienced condescending or demeaning comments or insults, and 26% had objects thrown at them by doctors. Physicians shamed, humiliated, or spread malicious rumors about 42% of nurses that were surveyed. Now, this sounds awful, and it is awful. And it's not 1940, it's 2015 that this was reported. So it does happen. I do want to qualify and say that many physicians are ashamed and embarrassed of this as well. So it's not all physicians, but it happens, and it is so pervasive that it does influence us. So I'm going to pause here and tell you another story. And this has to do with how careful you need to be with how you suggest to a physician. And if you violate that, how marginalized or lambasted you can be. And this comes from a personal experience with a family member. So I have a sister, a younger sister, who was diagnosed with Hodgkin's when she was 25 years old. And she had a very difficult time getting into permanent remission. She had lifetime dosage of radiation to her entire chest because she had masses of the diaphragm from the Hodgkin's. She ended up having to have chemotherapy as well. She did survive, and good quality of life, raising her children. And about 15 years post that, she is diagnosed with breast cancer. So we go through the trauma of the surgery, the mastectomy, and we're talking to the surgeon. I'm in the room with her post-operatively, and he says, you're another oh, by the way, he knew I was a nurse, and he wasn't too crazy about that. So I'll just tell you that I'd already revealed to him that I was a nurse. And he said, you need to be really careful because the females in your family need to be sure they monitor for breast cancer because, she's young and having this manifestation of breast cancer. And I said, you're absolutely right. And we certainly will be. There's two other sisters in the family, and we will. But, I really think the important message for my sister is that there's this association with her breast cancer and her previous radiation treatment and what she needs to be cautious for future solid tumor development. He raises up out of his chair and does this in my face. Time out, time out, time out. This is not Hiroshima. I'm like, okay. And he said, you nurses just think you know so much. You're sitting here and saying something like that and scaring your sister to death. I was so taken back, I didn't even know what to say. He truly thought there was no association between her receiving high doses of radiation treatment for her Hodgkin's and the development of the breast cancer. So I was mortified, and I just sat there and the conversation ended. But I went back as soon as I could get on my computer and get on my databases and did my search, and I copied all these articles and research that shows that there is definitely a correlation and a link. And yes, indeed, in survivorship literature, we are monitoring young women who, and Hodgkin's typically happens in young females between 15 and 21 years of age, so they really have to be monitored closely because they probably will express some kind of solid tumor, breast cancer being the most common one. I made a packet of 15 articles and put a sticky note on the top of it that said what we did learn from Hiroshima. And I just put that in there and mailed it to him. I never heard from him. I just wanted to point out to you imagine how that felt to have that experience. Next. Another example. I've been very active in the state in trying to advocate for defining nurse practitioners in the public health code in the state of Michigan so that they can practice to the full extent of their education and their certification to contribute to care on behalf of Michigan residents. So we had a very active lobbying and a very active senator who was supporting us, and in 2015, we had Senate Bill 2. We were very close to getting it passed. It had been to the Senate and approved. We were in the House trying to get it approved. But our colleagues in the Michigan, MSMS, Michigan Society of Medical, Michigan State Medical Society, thank you, were adamantly opposed. I would go and testify, and there would be these rebuttals that were not based on evidence, even though my testimony was based on evidence I made sure, carefully written. On the day that we brought all of the APR and nurse practitioner students to Lansing to be part of Advocacy Day, they paid God knows how much for this billboard to be created and parked out in front of the Senate chambers. So this was the message that all of these rising students, professionals for advanced practice saw. And it says to protect patients that this bill, were it to pass, is bad for patients and wrong for Michigan. The message that sends to our students about the collaboration and partnership of medicine is not very strong. And it's another example of their hierarchy and their power over us. Nursing did not say a word about this. Our watchdogs, our spokespersons, we didn't get mad because we always just take it. You know, we're not going to get angry. The senator was very upset about it, that supported it, and he spoke out on our behalf. But we just took it. But the thing is, you know, to imply that nurses would do something to hurt patients is a pretty derogatory insinuation. And then one other example in recent years, in 2010, the Institute of Medicine did an extensive study on looking at what the future of nursing needed to be as we continued in the 21st century, given the call for transformation in healthcare. We are the largest of any healthcare group, and we need to know how we can best contribute to the transformation, and it needs to be done in a coordinated and clearly stepped out way. The Institute of Medicine is not made up just of nurses or physicians. It's made up of multiple stakeholders who can influence healthcare. So their coming out with this report was very monumental for us. And this was what the American Medical Association came back, that was what they came back to say about it, of all the opportunity for them to acknowledge the in-depth work and the considerations of how nursing might be involved, was that it has to be a physician-led team, that we're not educated enough, and so forth, and you can read it. The point being that it was an opportunity to come together and talk about nursing's insight into ways that they can make a difference in healthcare and transformation, rather than picking out a piece and being worried that we were going to take over a piece of their work or their turf, or we were going to encroach upon that. So that kind of thing is, these are some really good examples of how this perception has influenced me as a professional, for sure. Now back to our framework again. Now we're going to talk about gender socialization as an influence. So there are 3.4 million nurses in the United States. 90% of them are females. Very interesting what the gender wage gap is, even despite the majority of us are females. Male nurses, this is a report that just came out in the last couple of months. On average, are paid more than female nurses at every education level, and at the baccalaureate level, male nurses earn 19% more than female nurses. Just one fact to keep in mind, just as sort of supporting documentation. The other thing is that nursing has forever been seen as women's work. It's family friendly. You can work in any city where your spouse might find a job or where you might need to relocate. You can enter and leave active employment as you have children or as child care issues come up. The hours are 24/7, so you can create almost any kind of schedule around what your own personal family needs might be. So a lot of individuals to this day go into nursing because of that. It's a field they can go in and out of, and in today's society, nurses tend to work 12-hour shifts. They get paid 40 hours a week for working 3 12s, so 36 hours. They love that, and they be home 4 days a week. So when you make a choice to go into the profession because it's women's work or it works with what you think your life is going to be, that affects us as a profession. We had a very uneasy alliance with feminism because when the feminist movement started, it was about encouraging young women to believe and know that they could do things other than the traditional roles of being a nurse and a teacher, or an airline stewardess. But so they, but we don't want our capable young women to be encouraged to go into medicine because that's a preferable field. We need them to be in nursing to advance nursing. So we've been a little bit at odds with that. Our experiences as nurses are intimately connected to and inseparable from our experiences as women. And the traditional role and image of the nurse are expressions of oppressed groups. Groups that are oppressed when forces outside themselves control them. And controlling groups have greater power, prestige, and status. For nurses, this is a fact, but when nurses place increasing value on the technical, or that which is valued by medicine, then we give in to oppression. So one of the common things that happens with nurses is that we acquiesce to a knowledge stance. So we want to be, which is not wrong, but we want to be very knowledgeable about what we're doing so that we can have equal conversations with the providers that we work with, particularly our physicians. But a lot of times what we're given recognition for is our skills. So this is absolutely true. If I am the nurse in the ICU that can always start an IV on someone, no matter how small or fragile the vein, I'm a really good nurse. Is that true, nurses? And it becomes still the defining thing about what makes you a good nurse. So in my career, personally, that very much defined me. It's how I started defining myself. I went through being thoroughly disgusted with being the sex object to physicians or what have you, and I wanted to be very knowledgeable. The mentors, the people that I admired were the really smart nurses. It were my instructors that could sit up in front of the room and tell me every fluid shift that occurs in a burn and how you correct it and so forth. I admired that. I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be the nurse that could explain that to rising nurses, to be able to talk to my patients and explain it. So that's what drove me. And I knew that it also was about trying to earn respect. Now, the other thing is, it's very true about this gender socialization is that a big part of me, and the early part of my career, wasn't about being a nurse necessarily. I wanted to be married and have a family. That was very important to me, and I wanted to do that really well. And women do that. We try to figure out a way we can be the best wife, the best mom, and also have a career. And that puts us under terrible burden. Nurses in particular progress in their careers very slowly because of that, because they're in and out, going back and getting education, has to be put on hold while you're raising children and so forth. So we don't have an equal trajectory through that. That's very much part of my career. Early on was my commitment to my family, and basically number one to be a good mom and a wife. And so the next thing we need to talk about are our reference groups, because they're another important variable. Silent nurses is one of our reference groups, and there's actually been books written about this. There's a couple of journalists who've taken a great deal of interest in studying and being part of what nurses do and then writing about it. And one of those books is very well known. It's called From Silence to Voice. And the fact is that we are very often silent about our work. And really, the key point is here that if we talk about the good things that we do, then it transforms our altruism into narcissism and thus nullifies whatever good acts we perform. So we are really in a culture where we're told to be very modest and quiet. It's almost like the sacred stories that we know stay right with us in our hearts. If nurses go out to dinner with their friends or other couples, they probably don't talk about what they did ever. And so that's another reason that the public really doesn't know what we do. Fact is, we don't know, we don't understand the complexity of the work, and we don't understand the brilliance that lies within these nurses. To be honest with you, that still is with me today because I get up in public speaking on the national and state level, and it doesn't bother me one bit. I have been in a tizzy for a week coming and doing this because I had to talk about myself. And it is very uncomfortable for me. And so, whether I want to acknowledge that this part of the profession has influenced me, it does, because I don't feel like I have anything really to talk about. And Jill, I've told her 100 times in the last week, I don't want to do this. So it's very true. Unfortunately, what happens when you're a part of an oppressed group and you have low self-esteem broadly within the profession, then we tend to have horizontal violence, and the oppressed direct their frustration on each other. And it's a very, very bad problem within nursing. 45% of nurses have been verbally harassed or bullied by other nurses in a 2017 survey. It's a kind of relational aggression. It's not physical. It's very common among females, generally middle school, but we hope we outgrow it, but it can persist into adulthood. In fact, I was just talking to a nurse leader in one of our area hospitals who said, "Oh, I feel like I'm in middle school all the time," because working with her staff nurses, that's the kind of behaviors that they exhibit, and they have a really hard time getting beyond that and being at the level that they need to be. So what are some of the triggers that tend to cause bullying behavior? Being a new graduate or a new hire, receiving a promotion or an honor, receiving special attention from a physician for advancing your education. And really, it's like it's about jealousy. You know, women get jealous easy, and I can tell you this is true. And whenever I advanced my education, first of all, I had a baccalaureate degree, and at the time that I graduated with my baccalaureate degree, there were a lot of diploma nurses still. And you just had a hex on you from the beginning, and you were walking on eggshells, trying to, make sure that you made everybody happy, and you weren't offensive with your degree and so forth. When I got my master's, it got worse. When I got my PhD, and I was taking students back into the clinical, I don't even have time to go into the stories that the staff nurses perceived and told about me to my students, and they didn't even know me. So it is just really hard for them. The thing is, if you have your PhD, you can't be clinical anymore. You couldn't possibly know how to direct them to get care. That's what the hostility is. It's directed that you're out of touch now. You don't know reality. Types of nurse bullies, I'll just talk about. One, the super nurse, the one that is more or better no matter what. And this is really common to this day. If you're the super ICU nurse, you're the super ER nurse, you're way above the school nurse, or the public health nurse, or even the nurse that works in the medical surgical floor. We tend to think that the more that we do, or the more responsibility, or the higher level of what we're doing, makes us better, and we integrate other people, bring with envy, you can see, equipage, and so forth. Now, I make it look like I don't have any positive reference groups, and I absolutely do. I mentioned the mentors that I looked up to in my educational process. When I was forming what I wanted to be as a professional and as a nurse, I knew the kinds of people to look for. And these are the kinds of characteristics that mentors give us and help us to rise to the next level, help us to realize we can be more than it appears that we can be when you look broadly at our profession. And I have been so blessed to have mentors from the time I entered the program all the way along at the bedside, nurses that I emulated. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to show that kind of patient-centered care. That was very important to me. And as I ended up in higher education, I had one very special mentor who plucked me out of all the ranks of faculty and said, "I need you to be my associate dean." And that was never a role that I ever thought I would have in my career, ever. And I didn't think I could do it. But through these kinds of characteristics, I was able to do that and do it successfully. So the next thing is to kind of try to bring this together. Remember, one of the variables was about heredity. So one thing I barely mentioned, but I need to say that I grew up in a family. My father was a Protestant minister. My mother was a preacher's wife. She defined herself in that role and as a mother. So that was my influence of my female role model in my family. I was one of 3 daughters, and so that's what that was like. But being a preacher's kid, you know, you can say everything I ever need to know. I learned in kindergarten. I learned a lot from being a preacher's kid. I don't know that I appreciated it at the time, but I certainly do in reflecting. One of the things that whenever we would go and ask for help growing up, that my father would say is, "What would Jesus do?" Now, I probably didn't like that answer then, but it did remind me to take time and reflect and consider what the priorities are in any decision or any determination that I'm trying to make. The other thing I learned was that Jesus isn't an elitist. He's not biased. He never looked down at anyone or saw life through the eyes of those less fortunate. And I really carried that one in me. I'm a strong advocate. An example would be a nursing student when I was at my previous institution who had hit the 2 strikes you're out mark. In nursing, if you fail one nursing course, you can repeat it and move forward. If you fail a second time, you're out of the program. That's it, you're done. And we're very firm about that no matter what program you're in pretty much. Well, this young lady had a story. It was a very powerful story. She was a minority student. I wanted her to succeed. She was living in her car with her child. I mean, and that's just part of her story. And I just sat down and said, here are the things that are keeping you from being successful in your life right now. How are we going to fix those things? So we had to take care of what our barriers and distractions were. And once we figured out a solution for those, then you can come back in. And she did. And the faculty were very, very angry with me because I turned that decision around and let her come back in. Interestingly, just a year ago, one of my faculty members from that school was at a professional meeting that I was at nationally, came up to me and said, "You remember Brittany?" I said, "Yeah, I do." She goes, "Let me tell you what she's doing. She made it to the nursing program and she's a star now. What if we had let her have that chance?" So that's one of the ways I lived that out. Integrity. I was in a fishbowl as a PK, preacher's kid, but integrity, I believe, is what gives me integrity. It gives everybody that. It's so terribly important. Now a little bit about adverse experiences or blessings. So this is really important for me, that this is what I've learned. That adverse experiences are better to be called passages. They take you from one place to another. You see yourself and the world differently after going through these events and emotional states that define each passage. Now for me, they've been pretty dramatic. First of all, my family experiences, I already told you about. My sister being diagnosed with Hodgkin's was a huge impact on us. It had a huge impact on her very young family. All of us trying to help her when she wouldn't go into remission, going the second round, getting her through it, coming around her. It also helped me realize the brokenness of our healthcare system, and it gave a whole new path for me in terms of what was going to be important in my career. There were so many weaknesses, so many needs that weren't met. Had we not been around her, what would have happened? Myself, I had 2 miscarriages along the way. So I had 2 biobirths and 2 miscarriages. Those were extremely traumatic for me. And I had a new insight then on what loss is like for me personally, for me to experience a loss of that nature. Because as women, if you've been childbearing, you know that the minute you know you're pregnant, it's real. And losing it is hard. I told you that my sister was diagnosed with breast cancer. I mentioned that in a previous example. That was very traumatic for us, very scary, because even though I'm a knowledgeable person, when I hear cancer a second time, that's scary. I'm really afraid it's the death toll this time, although she's still alive. And she's got a second breast cancer, I want to tell you as well. So still hanging in there and still suffering from radiation, which keeps on giving forever. And then 6 months after my sister was diagnosed with her first breast cancer, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, which was 19 years ago. And I still had a 7-year-old and a 14-year-old at home, and one of my children was in college. And I was really scared. I didn't want to leave my family. I've already told you this. I'm not going to cry. So I opted the most aggressive therapy. But what was really difficult for me was the way I was treated in the system during that time. because I wanted everything investigated. I wanted the genetics piece of it worked out. I wanted to know what all my options were. What did the radiation oncology people think? What did the medical oncology people think? What did the surgical oncology? Well, the surgical oncologist was the one that was leading the team. He was very angry with me because he knew what he needed to do to me. He said, you're going to have a lumpectomy, and you're going to have radiation treatment, and you're going to be on tamoxifen, and that's it. And I'm like, gosh, I'm really not comfortable with that. Let me make sure that everyone thinks that's the best thing for me. Well, indeed, the radiation people were like, no, we're never going to be able to monitor you. The reason that you're where you are is because you have, this is way too personal, but really dense breast tissue that's hard to monitor for recurrences and so forth. So we really need you, you really need to think about who could be a candidate for bilateral mastectomies if that's what you're most comfortable with. That was a decision that I made. It did not make the surgeon happy. I was told that I would have a 1% chance for ever getting breast cancer again. So that felt like a pretty good option to me. And I wanted to stay alive for a long time, raise my family, and continue to contribute. And that's what I did. I never saw the surgeon after the surgery was done. He never saw me again. The plastic surgeon, which was also involved in the surgery, continued to follow me, but I never saw him again. So there's a really strong message for you right there. Some other things that have happened to me along the way that have been adverse experiences that have changed my life and helped me to understand what other people go through. My mother was severely depressed for a number of years, and that was really, really hard. I couldn't reverse that for her. My father, who had been a very distinguished and respected man, he got taken up into all the scams that come in the mail and was giving all the precious little money they had away. And that was so devastating for me. And then realized that he really had a form of dementia that kept advancing. So that was part of our family that we had to live through, and it was very difficult. My parents died right before I started here. I actually had just gotten a phone call that my mother had passed away unexpectedly when Gail Davis, the provost, called and said, we'd like to offer you the position. And it's very interesting that the two phone calls came right after each other. I have no idea what I said to her. Apparently I accepted. And then 1 month exactly before I started here, my father passed away. So those were two really very difficult things that I was dealing with during a period of transition in my life. And then the final thing is that in April of this year, I was doing just my usual shower, and I'm like, what is this weird little bump here? Over one of my I had implants from radiotherapy surgery. So I was quickly to the Comprehensive Breast Cancer Treatment Center within 2 days, and by Friday, I knew that I had breast cancer again, which I had a 1% chance of ever getting it again in my life. And so I was quite shocked, scared to death, complete workup done. My kids were absolutely beside themselves because again, this notion of, breast cancer again is all over. But that wasn't what it was. It was 19 years later, it's completely new cancer, we're starting over. Here's how it's going to be treated. I had my surgery in May. I did radiation treatment all summer, and I feel fine now. I really feel wonderful. I am on that tamoxifen that the original surgeon told me to. I'll let you know how that part goes. This many years later, I knew how to advocate for myself better. I had a wonderful team. I think our healthcare and our system has gotten a lot better. I've had wonderful physician partners as well as nurse partners through this journey. And I'm only saying, all the college nursing, wow, you can't ask for a better group than that. But all of these adverse experiences, and really, I think it was my first breast cancer experience that most changed me in these ways. And that, if you've had a chance to read those while I've been talking, because we're all getting close on time, these are really what fundamentally makes me who I am today as a leader. It lifted me up to believe that I could do things that I never thought I could do. If I had had the breast cancer experience before I was plucked up to be the associate dean, I never would have thought that I could do that. I became the nurse researcher after the breast cancer experience. I never would have thought that I would be the nurse researcher in a major university hospital. So these are things that, for me, fundamentally changed me in all kinds of ways. And it definitely affected that preacher's kid faith journey became much more robust after having this very real experience. These are some other things that I learned when I opened up myself to realize that I could be so much more, that I needed to move away from the way the discipline of nursing typically approaches their feelings of oppression, and that is, if you really look, is that we feel sorry for ourselves, and we want to be recognized because, hey, it's not fair, you're not being fair to us. But that's not how we have to approach this. This is what we have to do. We have to move to levels of dialogue. We have to listen to others' views and reflect on that. But now that I know we have a wonderful physician that is on our nursing faculty now, it is my dialogue with him that helps me understand much better why physicians behave the way they do to us. And I really think that now Dr. Johnson understands nursing better because we have this lived experience that's so much different than he or I have ever experienced because we're sharing something together. And so these things are extremely relevant to what I've been able to do and what I've become as a leader. And also, it encouraged me to know that I could, through my own self-awareness, that I could be much more empowered and much more powerful to make a difference. And I never in my wildest dreams thought that I would be on the board of the American Associations of Colleges of Nursing. Ever would I have thought that. And just to be nominated was an honor, but to be elected, and to be elected twice, in my second term, that means a lot to me, but it also says that this growth that I've had to go through is what's made it possible. And it takes me up to a much higher level to consider what all of these variables are that influence what nursing is, what a woman in nursing is, and what me personally is, and how that affects my thoughts, my self-images, my actions, and my performance has to be reformulated and rethought in your own mind in order to advance and become, different. It's actually the essence of nursing. I come all the way back full circle, but I was originally taught in those first introductory courses to what nursing is and what we try to tell our rising students. It is the caring capacity. It's the focus on relationship. It's the ensuring of reciprocity. It's bringing the body, mind, emotions, and spirit and our humanness. That's what nurses do. When you bring that to leadership, you are a very powerful leader. And so, authentic leadership, I didn't go looking for authentic leadership. It didn't necessarily find me. I just landed on that what I believe in actually has a label, and it's called authentic leadership. And if I were to define myself, this is what I try to do. Be genuine, trustworthy, reliable, believable. I believe in the goodness and the potential of other people. I have a purpose. I understand that purpose. I'm always searching for meaning. I think self-reflection and the dialogue and self-awareness continues to be very important to me. Upholding my values, leading with the heart. Relationships are very, very important to me. Understanding who I work with through their stories, developing their trust. I take that out not only just at the level of the faculty that I work with, but I take it out to my extended partners in the community. We try to push that out beyond how it influences what nursing is and can be as partners in this community. And then my own self-discipline for engaging in personal renewal. That's very important to me. I can't forget that. My second journey with breast cancer this year has been a powerful reminder. If I was slipping and thinking I thought I could do this all by myself, I can't. And it was a very powerful reminder. And so finally, this Bible verse was in my hand as I was laying on the gurney and waiting to go to surgery when I had my first breast cancer surgery by a very dear friend. And it became Back to you. Still. Questions? Well, thank you. Is there a question? Oh, yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you.
Oh, you must be a nurse. I recognize you. She's one of our doctor students. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, so I'm not a nurse, but I spent 14 years in elementary education. And I often feel in my new career when I tell people that I can feel a loss of interest or a bit of things. So just you were very inspirational today, and there are so many parallels between nursing and teaching. And in this era now where we get to watch and encourage young women to be anything, to remind ourselves to be so proud of these things that happen and be exclusively feminine, but things that my teaching career took more brain and heart and endless education than anything else I've ever done, but it's dismissed in a lot of ways, just like, it seems like this. So I just thank you for
It's a really good
a parallel story. Yeah.
I'd like to thank you, Cynthia McCurren, for sharing your story with the HerStory audience. And as we are all seeing is that we're in this together, and we can't make it day by day without sharing our story, because it's our story that's going to impact someone else's story. So your story becomes our story, and it becomes her story. So we just like to thank you again for coming, and would like to remind you that the next installment of her story will be with Valencia Hunter on January 24th, 2018. So again, we just like to thank you, and again, thank you for sharing your story, and you're going to continue to share. Okay.